Hi folks, this is Jason. Hope you're okay. It's good to see you. We're looking at the reliability of the Old Testament. Is the Old Testament historically reliable? And we're reading from this book, so if you want to get hold of this book, Evidence Demands a Verdict, it's a really good book by Josh McDowell. And we're looking at textual transmission. How accurate was the copying process? Part of discovering the historical reliability of the Old Testament has to do with examining the textual transmission, the path from the original writings to today's printed copies. As with other literature of antiquity, we do not have the original documents, but the accuracy of the Hebrew copies is astonishing when comparing the scriptures to other literature of antiquity. Gleason Archer states, "It should be clearly understood that in the respect to transmission, the Old Testament differs from all the pre-Christian works of literature of which we have any knowledge. To be sure, we do not possess so many different manuscripts of pagan production, coming from such widely separated areas as we do in the case of the Old Testament, but where we do, for example, in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the variations are for a far more extensive and serious nature. Quite startling differences appear, for example, between chapter 15 containing the papyrus of Ani, written in the 18th dynasty, and the Turin papyri from the 26th dynasty of the later. Whole clauses are inserted or left out, and the sense in corresponding columns of text is in some cases altogether different. Apart from divine superintendence of the transmission of the Hebrew text, there is no particular reason why the same phenomenon of divergence and change should not appear between Hebrew manuscripts produced centuries apart. For example, even though the two copies of Isaiah discovered in Qumran cave near the Dead Sea in 1947 were 1,000 years earlier than the oldest dated manuscript previously known, AD 980, they proved to be word for word identical with our standard Hebrew Bible in more than 95% of the text. The 5% of variation consisted chiefly of obvious slips of the pen and variations in spelling. They do not affect the message of revelation in the slightest." Robert Dick Wilson, brilliant observations trace the veracity and trustworthy of the scriptures back to the surrounding culture of Old Testament Israel. Robert Dick Wilson was an awesome scholar, massive scholar. "The Hebrew Scriptures," he says, "contains the names of 26 or more foreign kings whose names have been found on documents contemporary with the kings. The names of most of these kings are found to be spelled out on their own monuments or in documents from the time in which they reigned, in the same manner that they are spelled in the documents of the Old Testament. The changes in spelling of others are in accordance with the laws of phonetic change, as those laws were in operation at the time when the Hebrew documents claim to have been written. In the case of 2 or 3 names only are there letters or spellings that cannot as yet be explained with certainty, but even in these few cases it cannot be shown that the spelling in the Hebrew text is wrong. Contrariwise, the names of many of the kings of Judah and Israel are found on the Assyrian contemporary documents with the same spelling as which we find in the present Hebrew text. In 144 cases of transliteration from Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, Moabite into Hebrew, and in 40 cases of the opposite, or 180 in all, the evidence shows that for 2,300 to 3,900 years the text of the proper names in the Hebrew Bible has been transmitted with the most minute accuracy. That the original scribes should have written them with such close conformity to correct philological principles is a wonderful proof of their thorough care and scholarship. Further, that the Hebrew text should have been transmitted by copyists through so many centuries is a phenomenon unequalled in the history of literature." Wilson also writes, "For neither the assailants nor the defenders of the biblical text should assume for one moment that either this accurate rendition or this correct transmission of proper names is an easy usual thing, and as some of my readers may not have experienced in investigation such matters, attention may be called to the names of kings of Egypt as given in Manetho and on other Egyptian monuments. Manetho was a high priest of the idol temples in Egypt in the time of Ptolemy, about 280 BC. He wrote a work on the dynasties of Egypt's kings, of which fragments have been preserved in the works of Josephus, Eusebius, and others. Of the kings of the 31 dynasties, he gives 40 names from 22 dynasties. Of these, 49 appear on the monuments in a form in which every consonant of Manetho's spelling may possibly be recognized, and 28 more may be recognized in part. The other 63 are unrecognized in any single syllable. If it be true that Manetho himself copied these lists from the original records, and the fact that he is substantially correct in 49 cases corroborates the supposition that he did, the hundreds of variations and corruptions in the 50 or more unrecognizable names must be due either to his fault in copying or to the mistakes of the transmission of his text. Wilson adds that there are about 40 of these kings living from 2000 BC to 400 BC. Each appears in chronicle order, with reference to the kings of the same country and with respect to the kings of other countries. No other evidence of substantial accuracy of the Old Testament recorded could possibly be imagined than this collection of kings. In footnotes he computes the probability of this accuracy occurring by chance. Mathematically, it is 1 chance in 750 that this accuracy is mere circumstance. Because of this, Wilson concludes the proof of that the copies of the original documents have been handed down with substantial correctness for more than 2,000 years cannot be denied. That the copies in existence 2,000 years ago as being in the matter handed down from the originals is not merely possible, but as we have shown is rendered probable by the analogies of Babylonian documents now existing, of which we have both original and copies thousands of years apart, and scores of papyri which show, when compared with our modern editions of the classics, not only minor changes of the text have taken place in more than 2,000 years, and especially by the scientific and demonstrable accuracy with which the proper spelling of the names of kings and of the numerous foreign terms embedded in the Hebrew text has been transmitted to us. F. Bruce states that, another great scholar, the consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible which the Masoretes edited has been handed down to them time with conspicuous fidelity over a period of nearly 1,000 years. William Green concludes that it may safely be said that no other work of antiquity has been so accurately transmitted. These are eminent scholars. Concerning the accuracy of the transmission of the Hebrew text, Atkinson, who was under librarian of the library at Cambridge University, says it is little short of miraculous. That's incredible stuff, my friend. The Old Testament is historically reliable.